That way, the market forces will determine.
You mean when they're disbursing the funds?
Yeah, when they're disbursing the funds.
So they should be paid in dollars?
Yes. They now create Naira equivalent.
I thought they said that was what some economists frowned at. Saying, no, we don't. I mean, they have to encourage and strengthen the Naira. You can't keep trading in dollars, even in the Naira economy.
No. You see, there are two different things. What the point I'm making is that the state, for instance, Lagos State deserves some their own subvention in dollars. The monies that they share in Abuja in dollars, because this oil money comes in, they will change it to Naira first. I'm saying before paying, because that one creates more excess funds in the market.
So how do we then, sorry to interrupt you, but how do we then build the reserves?
Now, that way you can also build your reserves by encouraging, exports. So what you do is that when you allow that to happen, the Naira will be forced to appreciate because market forces will now determine. And when less dollar is demanded, because when you cause a monopoly, there's bound to be your price giver.
That's where I wanted to come in, because the monopoly we're talking about, if you say, for instance, the BDCs, to go about sourcing for their own funds now, before now, they had always gotten their dollars from the central bank.
That's right.
So when the central bank comes up with a system or a statement saying that they should source from autonomous sources, are they all saying, are they then saying that away from the CBN, the BDCs can as well go out and source for dollars?
Of course, okay, CBN will give them some money, but not as much as they used to. I think 10%.
And if we give that kind of leeway,
yes.
And we put that side by side with what we're talking about, restricting people taking monies outside the country, what does that tell us? Because at the end of the day,
yes.
if they get dollars from outside the CBN, the whole issue of having the BVN for this, say, BDC's operators is defeated, because I can as well come with this X amount of dollars from God knows where, and I say I got it from somewhere without any evidence to show that's where I got it from. Because if the source is outside the CBN, it doesn't help anything that the government is trying to do.
No, one thing is that all monies coming in must pass through CBN. Anybody bringing in dollars into this country must pass through CBN.
Good.
Singapore does it. You can bring anything, but the CBN captures it. The Singapore Central Bank captures it. That way you have control. You know who is the kind of money in the system. But what that will do also, that when the BDCs begin to source their own funds, it will become what I'm talking about. It will become now, if I have my dollars, I go to BDC. So he said, okay, no, I cannot pay, I cannot sell my dollar at this. The other person will say, okay, bring. So you find that the whole thing is, so you find that money is now forced. It's okay, I don't have the Naira equivalent that you're asking for. I can only pay so much Naira for your dollar.
So in other words, the BDCs can determine the exchange with which they sell the dollar?
No, not them determining. The market forces. You're a BDC, you're a BDC, you're a BDC. If I come to you and say, I'm selling my own for 300 Naira per dollar, you'll say, no, I can't buy that. I can only pay 250.
It has always been like that.
You see, because one is that the source
is the CBN.
Yes, source is CBN.
So now if the source is different from alternative sources, what happens?
What happens is that there will be some kind of competition. The monopoly also will begin to be broken.
But some are talking about 400 Naira already.
Yes, now, for short term, that's the reaction. Short term, yes, people will react. Okay, but don't forget that people are bringing in money, and when dollars are in circulation, what happens? Supply overtakes demand. Prices definitely come down. So people are bringing in dollars. They know their incentives, because of the new policy. So that way, short term, it might not even get up to 400.
In these times when we're earning not as much as we used to, do you think that kind of theory would work? Because if you say that state governments should go, at some point maybe the thing was, assuming the CBN had adopted this policy for a while, and perhaps the Naira had been strong against the dollar. At this time when we're not earning as much as we should be earning, where states are not even able to pay their workers' salaries, do you think that with that kind of policy, the Naira would really come down against the dollar? or would really appreciate against the naira as at this time?
It's all about market force. It depends on how much dollar is in circulation.
That's what I'm saying. Is it a
Yes.
safe policy to adopt in these times when we do not have as much
you
as
see,
we used
because
to?
the CBN, they're just taking an aspect. It should be a holistic thing. It should be a holistic thing. That, look, we have to do so and so that this thing will be, to checkmate this kind of leakages, to make sure that we do this. Then the major thing is to support the local industries so that they produce, because the monies that CBN...
Is that the job of the CBN as well?
No, you see, because it's not only that, because one is that interest rate influences the whole economy. And the CBN, the way they manage interest rate, will affect the whole economy. So it is their own part of the but what the CBN is doing now is, look, once they have this thing, they will now say, okay, there's so much excess money in the system, inflation will be high, then they go to the treasury bills, increase interest rate, borrow money to mop up these excess funds. Now, keep this money idle, unproductive money, not invested. Because the fear that maybe if they invest it, it will really further cause inflation in the system. But we're saying, look, why don't you have this excess money set up venture capital firms to support small businesses? Rather than CBN, I heard the other day that the branch in Ibadan is giving money to SMCs. It's not in their place. It's not in their place to begin to give money to small businesses. Take this excess fund that you have, you're unproductive, you're not investing. If you want to invest it, give it to venture capital firms so that they'll be able to support small businesses.
Dr. Nweze, we have to go back to the issue. I'm still not clear on that.
Yeah.
If you discontinue sales of dollars to the BDC and you say they should source outside the CBN, you say it will open the market forces. I'm saying it will actually be worse. It looks like a terrible policy already, which definitely in the days to come might put them in another jeopardy. If you say this is the monopoly, which is the CBN, then we can easily trace some of these funds. The Singapore example you said that the CBN or the Central Bank of Singapore captures every foreign exchange that comes in.
Yes.
The CBN hasn't actually said that's what they would be doing in this case. So it then means...
And that's what they should be doing.
It then means if anyone who is ready to launder any fund or money can approach the BDCs as a fantastic avenue to launder his monies.
No, see, they've been laundering, even as we speak, they've been doing that. But what they should do is, once they strengthen their systems, the CBN, some of these things will not occur. So what we're saying that, look, rather than say sell at a special rate, and you peg it, okay, BDCs don't sell above this rate. We are giving you at this rate. The banks are giving, and don't forget there are some monies that BDCs have with the CBN, which they get about 3%, and then banks get about 11% for the monies that they keep at the CBN. So, but the thing is that you are now going to use money the problem you created to solve, you now create another problem. Use these monies in buy these excess funds, borrow it, and then keep it idle.
So, for now,
yeah,
do you see this policy stabilizing a lot of things, including those businesses that were a little shaky as a result of the previous policy?
Well, yes, at least I can travel and have some change on me. I can pay school fees.
No, but you could always pay school fees, because they said they always supplied currency for school fees.
And you could always travel with your BTA.
You could always travel with your BTA. That's
with $200 every day. You have to go to, and I can't use my ATM overseas and all that. It's a whole mess. It's a whole mess. And I believe that with the CBN reversing itself, it will, people, because everything about investment is confidence. Where there is no confidence, you can't invest.
Yeah, but if we look at also how much, because some of the figures that the CBN governor revealed was, aside the imports bill, which he talked about had gone up, he also talked about school fees, about how we paid $600 million, about $600 million in 2015 alone. Does that figure bother you?
Yeah, because one is that we have no business going overseas, spending such money, to go to school, if we're able to fix. And that's why I say it's not just the CBN problem. We need to look at it holistically. There are other ministries, other arms of government. The education system, they need to fix so that facilities will be provided for universities so that they'll be able to, there's no attraction sending your children overseas. JAMB should be changed, giving more new roles to play rather than stopping people from getting into school. In fact, if you ask me, because Nigeria is in a critical, we need to educate our people when we should be desperate to educate our people so that we can catch up with what's going on in the world today, rather than restricting people from going to. The US, they did it. They allowed education and all that. Eventually, so many schools came up. Then at a point, they began to categorize themselves. A schools, A grade schools and all. If you cannot afford Harvard of this world and all that, it's not the government that did that. It's the market forces that did that. So we should be able to fix the education system if we want to fight it, because you cannot fight. There's a flow in this. This is a knowledge economy. People want to go to school. You can't stop them.
All right,
so you have to go with the flow, so that fix education and fix other system, so that all these things, it's not just the CBN stuff.
But for now, this is the policy that they've announced, and we'll see how that eventually affects the entire system. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you.
Dr. Austin Nweze is an economist. He's also of the Pan Atlantic University. Well, CBN will respond or explain a little further this policy. That's coming up next. Don't go away.